clipboard on. Right, I see this. Okay, I'm now recording, I think. So yeah, what we're going to do is just create a blank project. It's got to contain lowercase letters. I'm sitting outside in the sun at the moment, so I may have to dash inside. We're going to manually select features. And we're going to scroll down here and we're going to select using the space bar CSS preprocessors, because we are going to preprocess. That's what SASS is. So just to summarize briefly what SASS or as will be or the variant we'll be using SCSS is. So it's an alternate styling syntax. What it does basically is it lets you write CSS in a more shorthand way, and lets you use stuff like variables and mixins to basically make writing CSS a lot easier, and you don't have to repeat yourself as much. And you can use variables and stuff in order to so one of the things you might be using is to make things like margins and colors uniform across the entire application, as opposed to people having subtly different colors everywhere, because people are, or if someone does want to use a color, them having to dive into the style sheet and find out what color is thing you're using to do something. They can set it in a variable and then everyone can see it. But of course the browser does only understand CSS. So one of the things you've got to realize is that SASS or SCSS, which is the dialect of SASS that we'll be using, we write the syntax there, but then what happens is that when you do your npm run serve or whatever, the webpack or roll up or whatever, webpack or roll up, depending on the context in which we're using it, will convert the SCSS into regular CSS. So one of the things is that you can't use variables and stuff. They're only available inside of SCSS, so you can't access them in your JavaScript, for example, because by the time your JavaScript is executing, the SCSS has already been compiled into CSS. So that's quite important to kind of realize, I guess. Does that make sense to everyone? Hello? I'm hearing a lot of silence. So one of the things that I can also just
repeat that my internet died there for.
So basically, just in summary, all this SCSS stuff, and so I'm going to call for the rest of this thing, I'm going to call it just SASS, because that's the name of the program that is pre-processing it. But what SASS does is it gives us all this stuff like variables and mixins and stuff. But one thing you've got to realize is that at the compile time, so when we actually run npm run serve or roll up -c, that SCSS gets turned into CSS. Yeah, which basically means that by the time, if you're using a component or something, you can't, use variables and stuff in, your SCS variables in your JavaScript, because by that time the SCSS has been turned into regular CSS. I'll try and display that in maybe a bit clearer as we go through it. It maybe will become a bit more apparent. I'm just going to hit enter here, by the way, because this will take a fair bit to do. By the way, if you hit here, it will say pick a preprocessor. We're going to go for SAS-CSS with node-SAS. So we want this one. So the second option here. So say pick a linter. We want just this default linting here. We want lint on save, and then it doesn't really matter for this one. I'll just go dedicated configs, and then I won't save it as a preset. And we've just had Rob Jones show up. Yeah, I'll just talk over it whilst this is doing its thing. I will just I'll just show you what it is. So again, so SASS and SCSS, they're the same language. They have the same features, but they're basically just different dialects of the same programming language. So can I find a thing? So yeah, so SASS is kind of was the thing that came out first. But as you can see, SASS looks kind of weird. It basically ditches. It's basically kind of like Python in this sense. It kind of ditches the semicolons. And it's not too windy, by the way. Am I being drowned out by the wind at all? Or can you hear me all right?
It was only windy when you mentioned it. It's fine.
Okay, that's good. Okay, good. Yeah, it got a bit windy there. And now a helicopter's going.
You're a plane.
Huh?
Can you hear a plane?
Yeah, no, it's a helicopter.
Ooh, okay.
But yeah, so you have this. So SASS is the original dialect of the SASS programming language, and as you can see, this is as you're seeing here, it kind of looks a bit like Python almost. It basically takes CSS, and instead of using curly braces to represent blocks, it uses tabs like Python, and it doesn't have semicolons at the end. So whilst this is nice, the main downside of SASS is that of course it's not direct. So SASS on its own, even if you don't use any of the features, is not valid CSS. It has to be compiled, and you can't just. It's quite hard if, as you know, if you're coming from our perspective, if we've already got a lot of CSS and we want to add in some SCS features, we'd have to rewrite everything basically, which is kind of annoying. So luckily there is a thing called SCSS, which is Sassy CSS, which is basically SASS, but now as you can see, it's got back. It looks a lot more like regular CSS, and then it's got curly braces and semicolons. And the nice thing about SCSS is that with any CSS you have is also valid SCSS. So we can enable SCSS on all our code, and we don't have to change anything. It's already valid SCSS. There, all CSS works in SCSS, which is not the same as SASS, if that makes sense. So yeah. So that's just a brief thing. So let's see if this is done yet. This is done now. So in the interest of time, I am just going to dive straight in and start working. You're welcome if you want to do the same steps I did. So in your case, it would be view create some project if you're following along, and then just make sure you tick the CSS preprocessors option and go SASS CSS with Node SASS. I think Dart SASS might be Dart SASS is the newer one, but I don't think it's as well supported with Vue. So that's why I go. I know Node SASS is the one I know that works for sure. So we'll do that in the interest of stability. And then what I'm going to do is open wherever the hell this is, which is in projects. It's SASS tutorial. So we open this up. We'll put this on the side, and we'll put this on one side, and I will, if I close this, hopefully the world won't end. Okay, so this is just a blank Vue.js project that we've just set up. So what we'll kind of just go do is, I guess we'll kind of scroll down here and go over some of the core features. And then actually, once we get to the end of some of the basic stuff, what I'll do is I'll show you how some of the ways that I'm already using it in the current project, because we've already got SCSS and SASS already set up in our project to use. So yeah, so the first thing that it talks about here is the first thing that SASS gives you, and it's one of the most helpful things it does, is it gives you variables. And so what are variables? Variables are just like in any other sort of language. They're ways, they let you store a value. So in this case, you can store basically any valid CSS property. You can store in a variable. So here they've stored a font name. Here they've stored a color. All variables must begin with the $sign, and then you can just use them here. Like so, you can just insert them directly in your code by using a $sign, matching the name. Now, one of the nice things about variables in SCSS is that they are imperative. So that basically means that you can change the value of the variable as you go downwards in your CSS file. And it basically means that SASS will read your file from top to bottom. So if you set it equal to something here, and then you change the value to be something different lower down in the file, it will take the new value below that point. So some other preprocessors that are used in CSS don't do that. If you change the variable anywhere lower down in the file, it will also change it everywhere else in the file. Does that make sense? That's all. So basically SCSS variables work like variables in most programming languages, and that the value they have is top to bottom in the file. So you don't have to kind of worry about weirdness like that happening. So that's one of the nicer things about SASS, is that it just works most of the time. So let's and so what happens is, by the way, is when you run this, so when SASS runs, which will run during the npm run serve step, it gets converted into this CSS, as you can see here. So basically what happens is it literally reads from top to bottom. It finds the thing with a $sign here, and it goes, okay, I know something that has a $sign in it is a variable. It's been defined up here, and then it literally just puts in the value in here, and the same with the color. And so we can test that out. So if we just go into this app.view here, you can see that it's already set up. So in order to, so by default in Vue up till now, you've probably just been using just style tags like this in your CSS file. You just done style. In order to enable SCSS, you have to tell Vue that the stuff between these tags here is SCSS, and you do that by doing lang equals SCSS, and that will then enable this tag here to use SCSS as opposed to just regular CSS. That's all the configuring you actually have to do. So one of the nice things is that with the whole Vue loading system and the whole Vue templates is, from now in on out, you don't have to do any more configuring. Vue knows that this is an SCSS declaration here. So what we can do is actually, as I go into here and if I just do a run serve, just so we can see it, we can do a demonstration as we go. So just wait. Is everyone doing okay, by the way? Everyone can still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, good, thanks.
That's good. Are there any queries on what we've done so far?
Nothing yet.
Okay. So yeah, this is just the standard Vue.js app loader, which we'll just keep for now because it's quite nice just to play around with. So I just close that. And so the first thing, of course, you notice is that, and actually if I hit F12, what we can do is we can actually go up to here and we can find, we should be able to find the CSS. You can actually see the CSS. This is kind of a bit janky here, but you can actually see in the file, this is the CSS that's getting added by, in our application. It's getting added as a star tag up here. And you can see it, even though we've said this is SCSS and it's getting passed, this is just regular CSS, and that's just fine. It doesn't break anything to enable this. It still works fine, and everything that is valid SCSS is also valid CSS. Sorry, every other way around. Everything that is valid CSS is valid SCSS, which means you can just turn it on and it doesn't break anything. Cool. So yeah, we'll dive into the first thing, which is variables. So again, as you might have seen, we can just set up a variable using a $sign. So we can just be like, so we could take this color here and we could call this something like view blue or something. And then we can just take this color here, copy it, cut it into this, put a bracket at the end. And then now, instead of writing this, having to use this hex code, we can just use view blue. And if we save that, you see that actually, and again, in the compiled CSS, that actually nothing changes. And so what's happening here is, of course, is that SASS is running, it's declaring this variable, and then it's noticing, okay, wait a minute, I know what this variable is, I can use it, and I can just insert it in here. Yep, that makes sense. That's just variables. It's as easy as they come, I guess. So we could do another one here, for example, called fonts, and we'll get that equal to Avenir, Helvetica, Arial, Sans Serif. And now we could have, fonts here. That's kind of nifty. And we can use these variables. The main use of variables, of course, is that you can use them multiple places in your CSS, and that lets you kind of use the same color without having to remember and copy and paste a load of hex codes everywhere. And it means you can give them names that are a lot more intuitive than just 2C3E50. I mean, VS Code, for example, does give you this little square, which at least tells you the color. But sometimes you don't even get a color that shows up here. So giving it a helpful name makes it really, really easy for you to identify, oh wait, that's what this color is going to be, rather than having to kind of rely off your knowledge of the hex code. So one of the things, for example, is we could now set, we can make another variable here called, I don't know what we can do. We'll call it background color, and we'll just make up a hex code, AF67 or something like that. That's going to be kind of a horrible color, actually. If we pick a different color, let's wait for this to load. There you go. So it's kind of going to be a weird green, I think. So now we could go back, if I could spell background color, and we could set that equal to background color. And you'll see that VS Code has nice support for it. So I don't know whether you kind of saw as I was writing there. VS Code will actually remember your variables as you type them, which is quite nice. So it will know that this is a variable. And now if I save that, you'll see, as expected, we get this nice green thing going in here. And again, what's happening here is, again, it's just copy and pasting the variable value into where it belongs. So very, very nice. Well, already that's really, really powerful. The way I've got it set up at the moment in layouts is that so sometimes you might want to put these variables globally across your application, so that any file anywhere in your CSS you can use these variables, because stuff like the core colors, the core fonts and stuff, they should be the same across everywhere. We shouldn't have to have to declare these. So what we can actually do is, if this stupid screen share thing would hide away, is we can, in here in source, for example, we could actually set up a file here and call it globals.scss. That's just the name I picked, just to represent these are going to be our global variables. And we could just cut and paste these in at the top here. And then inside of here, we can import from source/globals.scss. And now if I save that, you'll see that nothing changes. But now we can use these variables even though they're not in this block here. So for example, I could go into hello world here. This completely separate component, which again, as you can see, is using a lang CSS here. And I could say, I want the anchor tags. So you can see this anchor tag here. You can't really see it anymore. So I could say, I want this anchor tag to be view blue. Now this won't work because again, I haven't imported it yet. So just to demonstrate, as you can see, if you don't import something, you will get this error here that says SASS error, undefined variable, $view blue on line 56. And the way you fix that is you go in here, you do import, and you do source/globals.scss. And now if I save that, you'll see this works, and actually you can now see these links properly, because now these links are getting they're being colored view blue as opposed to the green that they were before. So does that make sense?
Can I
Yes.
just quickly see a globals file again?
Yeah. So it's literally, I've literally just put all the variables in there.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And so, the way we've kind of got one on, I'll show you in a bit, but we've got one set up for our our stuff at the moment. And I've kind of divided up into one of the other nice things you can do in SCSS, by the way, is I don't know whether any of you have tried to comment before in CSS, but by default in CSS you have to do these like multi-line comments things, and they're a pain in the butt. In SASS you can just use double forward slash, just like in JavaScript. So you don't have to use the stupid one. So for example, the way I've kind of got our, the way I've got R1 configured at the moment is I have stuff like Z levels. Here I have a bunch of, Z levels and some, and then, you'd have like core colors. So you can kind of really nicely divide it up into sections, margins, fonts, all that stuff. You can kind of get these all nicely defined so that all the variables are in the same place. I mean, colors and stuff like Z levels and margins, these are like the core stuff you want to make variables, because you want elements to look the same and have kind of the same feel. You don't want people using different paddings and margins, because that's a very easy way to make the applications look kind of disjointed if people are using different values. So yeah, so that's how that works. Okay, so that's basically all there is to variables. I guess the only other thing, of course, is the whole idea I said before, which you can redefine variables in a file. So, I can here, set view blue, and I can reassign it to something different, like, I don't know, red, just to be a troll, and that will now make these red. So you can, but it also won't change what the value of view blue is here, because effectively these are generating two different. Sorry, it won't change the view blue here, because these are getting effectively import. What import does is it just copy and pastes this to the top. I'll go away. Come on, hide out the way. Get out the way. It hides. It copy and pastes globals here to the top of the file, and then it runs it 2 separate times. So in this one here, it's copy and pasting, and view blue is still set to its initial value of 2C350, and then here it's copying it to the top, and then we're reassigning view blue to be red, and that's why you see red here. Cool. So I just get rid of that. Okay, so that's that done. So that's like powerful feature number 1 of SASS. So powerful feature number 2 is something called nesting. And nesting makes it much easier and much nicer to read CSS code as you're writing it. So quite a common thing to do in CSS, for example, is inside, I could take out hello world here, and inside of here, I could take out the logo as well. And maybe I want to do a div here. Maybe I want to make app a display flex or something like I did before. And then inside of here, we'll put in some divs, and we'll just v4 x in 6. I don't know, we'll have 6 of them. I don't need a key, because insists we have a key, so I'll just set key equal to x. And maybe then what you do traditionally now, if we want to style these divs, we do something like hashtag app, in select all divs inside of app. We give them a width of 100 pixels or something, a height of 100 pixels, and then something else, I don't know, we'd give what else can we have? We could have background color hashtag 444 or something like that. We'll do, and again we could make that into a variable, so we could have a dark gray, which we'll set to half 444, and then we'll have a light gray, which we'll set to hashtag 8. So then we could do, you know, hashtag app div nth child odd. So you know, this kind of gives you this nice alternating pattern in a flexbox, which hopefully you'll see in a second. So we do light gray here, and we can do dark gray here. Oh, and it doesn't like the fact that I don't use hello world, so let's just remove it. So yeah, so you get this nice little checker box thing here. This is just a basic flex box. But one of the things that's quite annoying about this is that we're writing quite a lot of lines vertically, and you know, one of the things you can kind of get into a bad habit in CSS is, say I have some other thing, you know, here, and I've got some, I don't know, I'm doing something else here, and I add in something, and I'm like, or some random span, and I'm like, give it a class of look at me, look at me, you know, and I you know, you might want to give that span, you might add in something else here, like an image tag or something, you know, you get all excited, and you might end up doing stuff like look at me, and you do stuff there, and then you put in your image tag here, and so you could end up with if you're not careful, you end up with kind of like you can end up with interspersed stuff where, you know, you get this stuff here which is kind of should be associated with hashtag app, because it's, you know, it's stuff that is directly this selector here, by the way, I don't know how you guys are with CSS selectors, but this here means select all divs which are the direct descendants, so one level down, so these divs, so it will select these divs, but if I put a div inside of these divs, it won't select these. Oh, thanks, Zoom. I don't know whether you guys can see that, but we don't have a 40-minute timer. That's very nice, isn't that? Everyone should say thank you to Zoom, I guess. Yeah, so what you end up here is you end up with something that's kind of annoying, where you have a lot of things here. You know, these three tags here, which are all kind of the same. They're all kind of referencing the same stuff, and if you're not careful, it can kind of get mixed up with random stuff here that you're also styling. So what SCS gives you a way to do is to nest your code to make it a lot easier to read. And so what you can do, what this nesting basically manifests itself as, is I can actually cut in here and directly write the CSS inside of app. And so in this case here, what happens, if I get rid of these junky things here, you see if I save this, nothing changes, which is good. You'll see what happens if we look in the code here. Basically, whenever you nest something, SASS, when it reads through, automatically will stick hashtag app in front of it and create a new rule for it. But now it's really nice because this stuff here is implicitly associated with app. But we've kind of taken that implicit association and made it explicit because now it's inside of this app style. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
How is everyone doing, by the way? Is everyone following along still, or are people kind of losing me? As in, please do get vocal if you're not understanding something. Cool. So does this idea of nesting make sense?
Yeah.
So if I did something else like here, so you know, you could also do again, if we put that look at me class in here, if we write look at me in here, and we'll go like background color red or something, if we save that, you'll see now what it does is it does hashtag app, and then it automatically adds in this space here, dot look at me. And so of course what look at me does is, I don't know, I presume you guys are all familiar with this, but the space selector in CSS means this kind of works the same as the angle here, but the space will work at any depth. So now, for example, I could add in a div here, maybe vif x equals 3, so on the third div maybe, and then I'll give it a class of look at me, And what I will do in here is, I don't know whether that'll work actually, that should work. Might need to v-bind it. And then what I can do is, I'll need to look at me, and then actually if I make it width 50%, height 50%, I'll need to make this position relative so it gets the width properly. So if I save this now, you now see that we see this on the third element here, just like you would expect. You just see a little you see a little box pop in, and of course the space. So this one here, if you just do it blank with nothing in front of it, that automatically adds in the space, and the space selector, if we click on it, as you can see, if I get rid of this console here, and I get stars back, you see that for this element, this rule is being applied because look at me, this rule will apply to anything with the class of look at me, regardless of how far it is within app, so long as it is within app. Cool? Just checking there's no objections there. Okay, I'm assuming everyone's okay. So moving on. So one of the other things you might want to do is we could now actually also maybe deal with this div nth child here. And so we can actually nest this as well. So this is now hashtag app div, and then on top of this, we want to add in the colon nth child odd. So I think what you can do, I've never actually tried this, but now inside of app hashtag div, we can actually take this rule and copy and paste it here. And I think that should now, if I save it, okay, that hasn't worked. Let's see why that hasn't worked. Ah, yes. So you can actually see what's happened here. Remember that if you don't put anything at the start here, it will automatically add in a space here when it pre-processes it. So what you actually have to do to tell SASS that you don't want a space here, you want it to actually apply nth child on this div, you put an ampersand here. An ampersand means, so ampersand was chosen because, I don't know how many of you know this as well, but you can also make a CSS rule that's like class A dot class B, which this means apply this rule to something which has the class of A and the class of B, and note there's no space between them. So this has to be this is, by the way, this is different to this. This means apply it. This is class A or class B. Without the comma, it's class A and class B. And that's why basically ampersand was chosen, because it's kind of like and. So we could also here do ampersand like class, some class. And this style will only get applied to something which has hashtag app and also has the some class applied to it. But yeah, if we do that, if we put the ampersand in and save, we see now that this comes back again. So the nice thing about this CSS now, I don't know about you guys, it's much easier to read than kind of this CSS, because it's kind of implicitly clear on every level. Like, you know, you can kind of read it a lot more naturally, and you can see, okay, this nth child here, so this nth child, this gets, or because it's got an ampersand here, this CSS class will actually get all these properties above it. And we can see that if we click on, you know, a grayed out div here, you can see that it gets this and it gets the app div stuff. So it's really nice, and you can really quickly see, okay, it stops you having to like accidentally like writing the same, like, you know, if you're kind of coming into this, you might accidentally write width 100, height 100 here, when you really don't need to, because it's already here, like it's already being applied. Does that make sense, like what we've done? Or is there anything I should go over?
That's fine.
Everyone else cool?
Yeah.
Anyone other than Mark and Freya still here? Please say something.
Oh,
Hello, who is that? Wait, who is everyone still here? We haven't lost anyone, have we? Oh, we've lost a Dan. Dan's gone.
yeah, we lost Dan.
Okay, has he messaged me being like, I'm coming back? No. Well, tough. He's gone. I think maybe he's had to run off somewhere. Cool. Nice. So that's nesting basically. So again, I'm trying to think if there's anything else to it. I'll check the guide here. This is this nesting thing here. So again, so yeah, I mean, because here, you can nest CSS really nicely. Be aware that if you overly nest, you don't want to necessarily nest too deeply because otherwise it can end up being kind of hard to maintain. But for simple stuff like this, it can be a real help to help make your CSS a lot. In this case here, it's being a net help. It's making it probably easier to understand. So it's kind of like, it's again, with all this stuff, one of the nice things about SASS is you're not forced to use it. But it's here if you want it, and for a lot of things, it makes writing code a lot easier, and it stops you having to repeat yourself. Oh yeah, you should so this globals file, probably should. I mean, it won't because of the way view works, but you generally speaking should start. You generally should start like with storage files like this with an underscore, so that SCS knows to use to, and I think you can use the use rule. Yeah, let's see if this works. I've never used this before, but we'll find it out if it works. So we go @use, and then it will need to be underscore globals. Let's see if that works. Okay, that doesn't seem to like that. We'll just go back to using import. That worked. Cool. Oh, you don't need. Okay, that's what I was doing wrong. Okay. I normally use @import, which is the CSS way of doing it. So @import, by the way, this is @import is a CSS function, not a SASS function. But I presume we should use @use. It might be slightly smarter, I guess. And then I think we can just use I think we can just use globals like this. Let's see if this works. I think it might be this hello world component here it's unhappy with. Okay, I'm a bit confused why that one's not working. Do I need to use source / globals maybe? Nope. Okay, I can't seem to figure that out. Do I need to use source / underscore globals? Nope. Underscore globals? Nope. Okay. When in doubt, that doesn't seem to work nicely with view loader. So for now, we will stick with the tried and trusted import, which works well. It works. Okay, yeah. So mixins. Mixins are kind of like the last of like the big. I'm trying to think what else there is. There's a couple more stuff here. And again, there's a couple more of this stuff here, and there's a lot of extra stuff on top of this, but these are kind of like the main stuff. So mixins are kind of like functions for CSS. It's kind of nifty like that. And so a good use of mixins, for example, is if you want to write code. So a lot of times in CSS, you need to put in these little vendor prefixes like WebKit or MS. That can get really tedious. So what you can do here is you can make mixins, which will basically copy and paste. So the stuff inside these curly braces here gets applied automatically when you run this mixin. And mixins can also take in arguments as variables in order to do stuff. So here they've done a basic one here, where they've done a mixin for the transform, which generally speaking you should use, you know, the MS and the WebKit prefixes, just because you know, they're not all, just to ensure maximum browser cross compatibility. And here, of course, they've just put in a generic $property as an argument coming into this transform function. And then by using the @include transform, which matches this name up here, and then passing in as an argument almost the thing they want to use, this then gets substituted in. And so the compiled CSS code is you just get this. So, you know, we could make a mixin up here, for example. So we want to create a square box as a mixin. We don't want to have to write this code every single time we want to make a box. We could make a @mixin square box. In this case, it doesn't even need any arguments. In this case here, we could put in width 100 pixels, height 100 pixels, position relative. And then here I could actually I could put in the variable as well. Actually, no, it's not. Let's leave that in there. And then all I need to do is do @include square box. And as you can see, it's unchanged. But now, of course, we've taken out this square box. And again, this could be a mixin, which is put inside the global file, so that, you know, there's a complex class of things that, you know, you don't necessarily want to make its own CSS class, but you want to kind of use the same code multiple times. You can use a mixin here in order to power that. It's very, very powerful. And again, you know, I could do square box and I could put in here $size. And then now I could do $size here. And then now this would be a function here and I could put in, you know, 200 pixels. And then in here, for example, I can make this one a square box with 100 pixels. And now very, very easily, what have I done wrong here? Oh, I forgot to put a semicolon here. Now, as you can see here, all these boxes are going to be slightly different sizes. So now the little ones are, you know, 100 are smaller than these ones. They're not all, so you can see they're actually not quite the right size because we've got this flex box in here. So the flex box is changing the sizes to make them all fit on the page. So if I, you know, I could do something like flex and make them stop shrinking. And as you can see now, that will make them all the correct size. That's why they were shrinking to fit on the page. If any of you were keen-eyed and were noticing that these were not 200 and 100 pixels. But yes, that's really, really nice now. We effectively made a function which, you know, you can kind of use these as functions to kind of generate the CSS you need given an arbitrary variable. And of course, you can pass in variables to these functions as well if you have stuff stored in variables. So that's all really, really powerful. Does that make sense at all? Is that good? Everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
So hopefully you're realizing that this stuff is really not that hard. It's just like, and again, you're not forced to use it. It's just stuff that might make dealing with common problems easier. And that's all it's there for, is to make stuff easier for us to use. So that's mixins for us. Extend inheritance. I don't normally use these, but let's have a look. Oh yeah, so this is how I have used these before, but only sparingly a long time ago. So this lets you kind of write, like, you know, these are kind of almost like base classes almost in like an object-oriented programming language. So these kind of let you write a template almost for what your thing should be. And one of the nice things, as you can see here, is that if, you know, this $% message shared, this will never get printed. This is not valid CSS. But what happens is when you look at the CSS here, is this automatically gets compiled into these kind of nice little styles here. So CSS is very smart in that it will work out all the places where this extend command is put, and it will automatically create a rule that selects all these things and then dumps the right CSS inside of them. Sorry, I got a bit windy there. And again, if you don't use things, if you don't use something here, it won't even print it. So it's smart enough to know what things are being used and what things aren't being used. So again, we could create a, you know, we could also, instead of doing a mixin for this, we could also use it. We could also, you know, extend it. So we could do, you know, square box. Again, we could do, I don't know what else could we could extend. We could do mini box, I guess, and that will be down here at this look at me here, and we'll do mini box width 50%, height 50%, background color red, and again in here now I can just go at extend percent mini box, and then I could do another class, for example, called also look at me, and I could now say we could extend this again, and now we could do stuff like we could set the background color to green, I don't know, for a laugh, and then we could add in another div here that vf, I don't know, x equals 5. And we'll call this also look at me. You see now we get this nice little green box here as well. And again, if we look at the style for this, which is going to be this one, you'll see that it's very smart. So it automatically creates one rule here to deal with selecting both of these tags and putting in the content here, and then it automatically also then does in also look at me, it also overrides the background color to be green. So you can see the way it works is slightly different to mixins. So with a mixin, it's kind of the opposite way around. With a mixin, it's copying and pasting the content of this into this rule. Yeah. With extend, it's kind of the other way around. With extend, when you extend something, it takes your rule name and it puts it where this percentage sign. So basically it goes through here and it goes, okay, look at me as extending mini box, and also look at me as extending mini box. I'm going to change at mini box to be dot look at me and also dot also look at me, if that makes sense. So it's kind of it's kind of the other way around, if that makes sense. So you know, this is probably more efficient if you're using if you're using one set of values. So in the case of, you know, before when we had it here where we just had 100 pixels here, this would be more efficient to use a extension here using the percent sign, because effectively this will only create one rule that will deal with all the things that extend it. Whereas the mixin will copy and paste this into each and every time the mixin is used, which means you can get a lot of duplicate code in your final CSS, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like mixins. So usually you probably want to be, if you're using mixins are usually better when you're actually using them as kind of like functions which take in variables, because then you're actually using them. These are actually all gonna, these are gonna, in this case, produce, these have to be mixins because they're actually outputting different CSS. Whereas here it's more efficient if you're not passing in arguments to your mixin to use an extension, because it only needs to put this CSS block in once, which, you know, keeps the file size down, which means the page loads faster. You know, that's why it's good to have small CSS, is that it makes the code a lot easier to download and a lot faster. Yeah, and yeah, if you put in things here that don't get used, they don't get added to the CSS, which is nice. That's just kind of what you think would be true. Yeah, Mark, did you need to run off, by the way? I think, didn't you say you had a meeting at 2 o'clock?
No, it's fine. I moved that.
Okay, cool. I mean, we don't have very long. We've only got, I mean, I know I've been on the call now for like an hour. I've probably only got, well, I've only got 2 hours and 17 minutes on my battery, but I think we probably only got, I mean, we're at the end of the kind of the getting started stuff here. There's a lot more. I guess we can just go over maths quickly. As you can see, you can do maths in SASS. So these do just basic maths. Now, again, so this is different maths, by the way, to the calc property. So this doing these maths here, this does not. So some of you might be aware in CSS that you can do, you know, shifted bar or something. You can do something like margin or height, you know, calc 100 VH minus 2 EM or something, yeah. Which is, you know, if you've got a bar, if you've got a bar, you know, here, which is height 2 EM, which makes it really nice. You know, we use this for the title bar, for example, in order to make sure that the title bar it all fits into 100 VH. So you can use the calc property here is really nice for doing that. This does not replace the calc property. So any calculations you do here have to be calculations which do not depend on the browser size. So they're calculations which have to be known at compile time. So stuff like so for example here, this works because you can divide 600 pixels between 960 pixels. That's an absolute unit, and you can that's basically just a ratio of things with the same units. This is dimensionless, and then you times it by 100%.
Absolute unit.
So effectively, any calculation you do, kind of like you can do them, but kind of the net result of the calculation can only be 1 unit. Does that make sense? So you can't mix and match units. I couldn't do 600 px minus 1m. That wouldn't work. But I could do 600 pixels minus 50 pixels, for example. That would work. So you know, I can do you know, again, I can do like they've done here. I can do 650 minus that. That's good. Okay. This is not okay. So to do this properly, you need to use the calc property, because calc tells the browser to do it at the time when the browser is running. So this you have to use calc. Yep.
Cool.
So here, for example, this is fine, and as you can see, it just does the maths for you. So it's handy, but maybe not as handy as you would think it would be. If that makes sense. And again, if I I can probably just save this, for example. And if we go into the style here, you see, for example, it actually turns this into 600 pixels. I presume if I do it without it, I'm going to get an error. Yeah, so you get this error here: incompatible units, EM, and pixels. So it will give you an error if you try and do that. Just so you know. I don't know whether you can do stuff like points that are absolutes. I don't know whether you can do like this. You can do that, okay. Yeah, okay. So some I think in terms of units you can do. Can you do it with relative with? I think you can only do operations, for example. So you can have different units here, but they all have to be. I think all you can only have one type of relative unit, if that makes sense. So you can do calculations between pixels and points because they're both absolute units, if that makes sense. So the browser knows what this is. So 10 points can always be converted into pixels, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or the same thing with, I don't know whether you can do it with like centimeter, with 2 centimeters. That work? Yes, you can do it with some. You can do it with centimeters as well, because centimeters can be converted into pixels. Because pixels. The pixels are determined by your UI scaling. So your browser kind of knows what 1 centimeter is in terms of browser stuff. But stuff which is relative and stuff where it can get scaled. So anything involving stuff like percentages, you basically can't do operations between them because the browser, when the time when SASS runs, it doesn't know the size of that element effectively, if that makes sense. So it doesn't know what 100% means, and it can't check because it has to be turned into regular CSS. Yeah. But this is still nifty, I guess. This still might be helpful. Cool. So those are the SASS basics. I'm going to see if there's anything else that's in here on the list of stuff in terms of like other stuff that's good to know. I mean, I think that's most of it. So what I can do quickly is I can kind of just show you what I've got set up at the moment in terms of SASS on the project. If it loads. Oh, I've just opened the same project, haven't I? I'm an idiot. On which branch is this on? Yeah. So at the moment in the project, I have this globals.scss file, which is just at the moment just got some. It's just got at the moment. It's got the imperial blue. It's got the green in the logo, and it's just got a generic white that we might change at some point. And then it's just got these set of Z levels that are supposed to define the different kind of like vertical heights of things, just so that everything's consistent and you don't get weird stuff happening with shadows. So that's kind of where we're at the moment with SCSS. And basically, as you guys are going through it, Dan is Dan here? Say hello, Dan, if you're here. I can't see if you're here or not. Is he still gone? I think he's not here. Okay, Dan's not here, but Dan was doing some restyling this morning, which looks very, very impressive. And I think he'll probably send it to the chat at some point. But if you're going through and as we kind of decide on colors and stuff or margins and stuff, feel free to like add variables to here and like tell people that you've put them here so that we can all kind of like collaborate and end up with a set of variables that looks uniform and that we get a really uniform looking application. Yeah.
So
Cool.
Rob, if I want to see the main stage, what should I run? Should I do npm run serve or should I?
Oh no. So you need to actually see this.
Yeah.
So in this case here, you don't do npm. No. So well, it's both. So stuff using so this will work with both. This should be set up. This will work using the playground, even though we don't really use the playground anymore. It should work. But I've also configured it with rollup. So if you do rollup-c, it will during that step, it will compile eventually. I can close the browser now because I don't really need it. Okay, that's good. Yeah, so as you can see, it will actually create this. It creates this invis components.css, which is this one. So actually so this gets turned into the CSS, and then if you're in a demo project, then you can just use that CSS effectively.
What I meant is like, how can I see the current layout? Do I just
What do you
do
mean the
npm
current
run?
layout?
Because
What
the
do you mean the current layout?
so there's like an layout folder, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
like how
one
should
here,
I
yep.
how should I see the template?
I mean, so I think at the moment the way we're doing the templates is that it's the idea that it's best now that if you actually go into a separate project and you set up a demo application, as I think we discussed before,
Okay.
rather than you don't want to, the layout stuff won't work in the playground because it's not the play. These are actually changing the
Yeah.
layout. They're not. So that's kind of what's going on there.
Okay.
Cool.
I'm dealing with the Lego blocks at the moment. So
Yeah, how's it going?
Barely started. So
Okay, that's all right.
I involve a slider, a title, and the help button. And what else?
Yep. That's probably it, to be honest. I could just get those things looking nice. I mean, the other thing would be to make your would be again, so you could, so just like we've put variables in here in a globals file here, yeah. It might also be worth having a JavaScript file also called globals.js, which also stores the well, actually, no, that's fine. You could actually we could make CSS classes that are effectively like, imperial blue here, that have color set to primary imperial blue here. And then what you could do is I always think it'd be quite nice to have an option where in that prop, as a prop, you could have like color or theme, which lets you automatically pick stuff like, set like a color like blue, and it will automatically make the whole thing like themed blue, if that makes sense, as a prop.
Yeah.
As opposed to them having to, and again, that could just, when you put that prop in, it just v-binds the correct class.
Yeah.
So you can make classes like this effectively.
Would it be
I mean, that might also be, yeah.
Sorry. I was saying, would it be nicer to just make the color prop a mixin?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. That's something that would be there. Yeah, you could make that a mixin for sure.
And
yeah. Although you'll need to.
Yeah. Sorry. Sorry. Go on.
I didn't. Yeah. That's the joy of no. That's I didn't have anything to say. I literally just, I don't know why I said anything.
So would it be possible if to change the SCSS as a variable? Say say you have this global SCSS, and say so you've seen my sidebar that takes in variables, right?
Yep.
There I have a color variable, and I just put in $ background color or something like that. Would that work?
In JavaScript?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the JavaScript you can't use, because basically by the time JavaScript gets run, all the SCSS has been turned into just regular CSS. So the variables don't exist anymore. So you can't, so if you want to use these variables in JavaScript, it might be worth also creating a like globals.js almost. I don't know, this is kind of probably a bad cloak, but you could do like const imperial blue here, and then in here you actually store, the same. I think that, I mean, I do think there is a way that you can, so I think there might be a way in which you can access them using an API, which basically does the exact same thing that SCSS. So I think there is a way that you can make SCSS also pass your JavaScript file and then effectively do the same thing, like substitute in the value of the variable. I've never used it. I think there might be a way to do it though. That might be worth if you want to investigate. Yeah, you can also do stuff like this, and then you just do export default, or rather export probably something like this.
Yeah.
like that. You could just
I
do
thought
that. That will
like
work.
it's possible to write CSS in the JavaScript to just use CSS as variables in JavaScript. Could we use something like, say,
I mean, but to be honest, with stuff like the colors, so as I was saying, it's probably better to actually just write classes, so actual physical classes, like you know, things
yeah,
like this,
but it's not just the colors, so
and then
it's
put
like,
yeah, and then you could I don't know whether you can you do, no, you can't, it's gone red. I was gonna say, can you do like that and have the name automatically? I don't think you can go no, I don't think you can
what
be
would it,
sneaky like that. You might be able to.
I mean, after you import it in the in the actual JavaScript in the view file, imported the SCSS. If you do say the variable color equals to dollar background color, what would that return? Would that return color as the color itself, or would it return something?
Would that say that again? Sorry, I missed you there.
Sorry. So I was saying, so if you set up a new variable, name name it as color, and make color equals
Yeah.
to dollar background color, whatever variable you set up in the SCSS,
Yeah.
what would that, like, if
Yeah.
you console log that color, what would that
Yeah.
return? Would that,
So if you're in here, if you're oops, sorry, I started my video there. Can you still see my screen?
yeah,
Can you see me now as
yeah.
well? I just popped in randomly. Okay, now I'm gone. I can't actually see what I'm showing. So what you can do is yes, you can't do like this dot L dot CS dot style dot color and then put in like, you know, dollar or even like this. You can't even put it in a string and be like that. Is that what you're thinking? You could do like,
Yeah.
yeah. So if you do that, what you'll actually just see in your CS, because this happens after your CSS is compiled, you will literally, you know, in CSS, you will literally just see, you know, dot this L or whatever. You'll see, you know, style equals, and then, you know, in here you'll see color colon. You'll literally just see it say invis blue. You won't see it. You won't see the color. And then because this is not a valid color, you'll just get an error message. This will, you know, give you an error.
Oh, okay.
So it won't work. So this doesn't. So I think there is a way to do it, because effectively, you know, you could run, if you tell SASS to also not only check this for variables, but to check your JavaScript for variables and effectively, you know, substitute in. I think there is a way to do it. I just haven't done it. I'll look into, tell you what, I will investigate after the meeting and see if I can find out how to do it, because that might be quite useful. But yeah, I'm not sure
Yeah. Okay.
at the current time.
Yeah, I'll research it.
I'll do an investigation. Cool. Alrighty. Anyone else got any queries, or you got any other queries, Freya?
Not really. That's it.
Not at the moment.
Okay, that's good. So what I might do is I might just do a quick, I'll just look in for like half an hour or so and see if I can find, I'll see if I can do that thing that you were suggesting, Freya, because I've heard of people doing stuff like that. I've just never personally done it. But I'll look into it for you and see what I can do.
Okay. So say if you make an external app to display the template, what do I need to include? Just the main stage, or is it like guidance, hotspot?
Oh yeah, so I did. I don't know whether. Wait, I don't know how many people have. So I've changed the way that the so the main stage component I kind of culled because I kind of didn't like it. So what actually, if I just open up a new window, so what I changed, and I can't remember who I was saying to. I mean, I think I don't envisage changing this back. I think this is so in terms of the structure now, I think was the structure with everything except for guidance, which I said to Dan I'm still having a little play around with. I'm basically trying to see if I can do some sneaky XML parsing stuff, but that's kind of what I've been playing around with today. It's not working yet. When it works, it'll be cool. But what I'm trying to do, what you can do now is, where's demo app? Is it up here? Yes, it is. Yeah, so if you go into demo app here, pardon me. What you can do, the way you set it up now is you just have IV visualization, and then inside of hotspots is where anything which is hotspottable goes. So at the moment, this is the toggle hotspot. There's three things at the moment. We've got toggle hotspots, we've got fixed hotspots, and we have the panes, you know, the sidebars. Yeah, so those are the three things we've got at the moment, and they live inside of here. And then anything else which is here will go inside the main stage. Anything which is not inside this template goes in the main stage.
Okay, cool. That's nice.
Cool. It just basically kills one thing out, and it basically, so I added in a thing now where basically with hotspots you can now move this position, can now be changed at runtime, so you can actually rearrange these in the visualization. And I basically, the way I'm doing the whole system now is a bit more elegant. It's a bit less hacky, which is the old way I was doing it was a bit of a mess. This isn't my, because I'm developing on my desktops. This isn't actually completely up to date. But yeah, I basically just, the visualization component now is now a bit larger than it used to be. And basically the stuff that was in main stage here is now inside of visualization. So yeah. I mean, to be honest, at some point I may, no, there's not really a reason to. It's quite nice how it is now. I think I took out the name of the slot because it was confusing. But yeah, that's it basically. That's what I did on Monday. Is just move this all into here. And I probably should make this a prop. Match. There's a train there.
That was exciting.
I'll do you hear the train?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll just do that, and then I'll just add it in. Sorry, I'm actually just developing. This is not SASS anymore. This is just me remembering I need to add in something. Cool. In fact, I might make this a string, to be honest.
Is all that updated on the GitHub?
This is on dev at the moment. I'm actually I'll push this as it is into dev.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll merge this change into dev.
Get
Yeah, that's how it will be.
Get an external app and add in what you added on yours. Would I see the same thing?
Yeah, this is on. So I can't do this. Actually, I should be able to. So what I can do, hopefully, is if I git let's commit this. Let's add all. Actually, if I only change one thing, I think so. So I think what I can do is I delete this globals file. So what I do, git stash, git checkout dev, git pull, git stash apply. Okay, that's good. And then I can do git add. Cool. And then I can do git commit. Let me just, I'll update the package as well. So I'll make this. I'll make this. Wait, this is the wrong package version. I'll make this dash beta .1. And then what I can do is if I just add that as well. Sorry, and add better viz control. And I can do npm publish tag beta. Okay, I don't know what's going on there. Oh, that's what I've already called the version. Okay, never mind. Let's try that. Okay, yeah. So Freya, what I've done now, if you go into a blank project, you can now probably the best way to get this is to just npm install or /save at /components at beta. If you just do that in a blank project, it will install this as is.
Okay.
So just I would
that's cool.
recommend doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. So I'm probably gonna head off in a sec, by the way.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll check out that thing for you. But yeah, I've got to run off now. So yeah, I'll leave you guys to it. I hope that was somewhat useful for the last hour and a half.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It seems that the Zoom, that the 40-minute. Well, Zoom gave me a present of an extra of an unlimited call time just for me. It seems so.
I think you get it for like the first 4 or something.
Okay, they try and draw you in then.
Yeah.
Let me just.
Yeah, it's probably the first time.
Okay, well we can. Maybe I'll try. I mean, who here hasn't used Zoom before? I guess is like, because I guess we can alternate.
So I've completely used mine up months ago.
Okay, yeah.
As in inviting people to a meeting for more than 40 minutes. I haven't done
I mean,
it.
we could also just keep our meetings to 40 minutes as well. That might keep us on track. Actually, that might be good. That might be good for us. Cool. Right, I'm gonna head off. So I'll see you guys. Have a good afternoon. And I'll take a look at that thing now. I'm heading off to Devon in a bit, so I'll be probably gone from around 4 today. But I'll be back tomorrow.
Okay, awesome.
I mean, if you've got any questions or stuff you want to show me, like, I can take a look at it, but I'll be on my phone basically. But you can still send me questions and stuff, and I'll try and answer them.
Sure.
Okay. Because I'll just be in a car. I'll be rather bored, so don't feel like. Yeah, cool. Fab.
Cool. See you.
Excellent. See you guys. Right, how do I stop this? So stop.